Hey everybody, today we're going to be talking about the SWAIN rework. I'm going to be using the in-game to show you guys visually what's going on, and I'm going to be talking about it the whole time. You can put this on in the background or you can watch, both are great. If you've seen the SWAIN rework, I'm going to be going over it, and there are some things you probably missed. And if you haven't seen it, then I'll be going over it, and if you haven't missed anything, then I'm going to be giving you my opinion on them, in particular some changes and thoughts on this change. So to start this off, some people don't like Swain in support. I actually think Swain is fine in support. That's my personal opinion. I think he brings a manly presence to support. His lore, his identity seems fine in support to me. He sits back, he helps teammates. If they stun, he plants a W over them. He can pull off stuff. I thought that was fine. I think that there's some anti-support bias. Some people just hate the idea of being support. You're dumb. You're dumb. But what Riot is doing is they're trying to push him into mid lane and support, kind of like Lux, where he can do both. The primary way they're going to do it, and I guess the way we'll start, is Swain can no longer pull crowd-controlled enemies. Swain's pull no longer deals damage. Now, I'll just skip down here, because otherwise this won't make sense. Now, Never Move. Swain can activate Never Move a second time to pull old champions rooted by Never Move. Now, I'm assuming that doesn't deal damage, because they said it no longer deals damage. That actually does hurt Conqueror's Swain quite a bit. I'm gonna just throw that out there. As of right now, Swain can get 8 stacks on Conqueror by just doing a Q, E, W passive combo. Activate your ult. You're already at 10 stacks. Just auto twice. There you go. So Conqueror Swain takes a pretty big hit here, and I kind of doubt is really gonna be much of a thing, but maybe it will. I don't know. Whoa, editing Hashinshin here, reminding everybody to like the stream and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment down below on all your thoughts. These things help me out immensely. They help this channel, and I appreciate it a lot. They're removing the ability for Swain to pull allies. I'm not sure I really like that, because again, I kind of like the idea of Swain being this mastermind sitting behind his team, being like, yeah, like I'm gonna put a W and pull people because Leona stunned someone. Yeah, I don't know. They are doing a change here, though, to his healing from his passive. Now, this is significant. This is something I've said they should do for a very long time. Instead of scaling at level 1, 6, and 11, it scales at 1, 6, 11, and 16. That means that now at level 16, instead of getting 7% healing, it scales to 9%. That means that solo lane Swain that actually scales and gets that level 16, he's rewarded. They get, instead of 7% healing, they get 9% healing from his passive. That's pretty substantial. Swain's passive, particularly into the late game, kind of stopped doing anything. It was kind of noticeable early game before healing debuffs. At level 6, it was kind of noticeable with his ult. If you ignited him or if you healing debuffed him, it kind of stopped doing anything. And to be honest, even at 9%, healing debuffs will still pretty much stop it from doing anything. But at the very least, particularly because he can kind of sit at range and he can still try to get those healings off in a team fight and stuff like that. Like this is substantial and this is good. This means I really like this change. Actually, this is something I've said they should do for a very long time. Swain scaling into the late game is something that he should do. It was so weird that you had this champion who, by his Q mechanics and by his passive health, all that, like he was like encouraged to be this more late game oriented champion, but then he just didn't scale into the late game, and it was super weird. In addition, because I'm assuming he can no longer pull as freely, and it's going to be much harder for him, the health per soul fragment is going from 5 to 12. Now, I actually disagree with that, and let me explain my reasoning here. I think the health per soul fragment should scale with level, particularly because of how difficult it's going to be for him to get health soul fragment things, because he can no longer pull off allies. He can't just be in a team fight and be like, you know, just spam right clicking and someone gets stunned, so he pulls them and he gets a health fragment. He's now only gonna be able to use his E and reactivate it to pull people, or use his W. Yeah, he gets a lot more, but here's my reasoning. I think it should go from 5 to like 5 to 15. Early game, fine. You shouldn't be rewarded so much for fighting against bad players. I very much think that Swain is going to be fighting bad players, and he's going to E into a W like 4 times, get 100 more HP off it. And that's going to be a significant difference between a Swain who can fight a bad enemy and a Swain who can fight a good enemy. This is just for the low-ranking, high-ranking balance. Swain shouldn't get 100 HP because a bad enemy gets hit by his EW 4 times in the early game. That's a lot of HP. Yes, I know it's not literally 100, it's 92, but you get my idea here, right? I think it should stay at 5. I think it should scale up later in the game. I think it should be like 5, then at level 6, it should be 10, then at level 11, it should be 15. I think that would be fine. And that would push him into being able to, if he has a bad early game, much like how Nasus doesn't get his Q cooldown at 2 seconds early game, he needs to get cooldown reduction, he needs to max it. Swain in the later game can try to come back if he hasn't had a good laning phase, and he'll be able to pick up large amounts of health. That's my opinion. I think I'm not going to stick here forever. Onto his Q. So you might notice right now, I've got 4 points in his Q. Even with 4 points in his Q, it's got a 4.5 second cooldown. For a champion who can't really do anything other than Q, because his other abilities have long cooldowns, that's still a long cooldown. That means until rank 5, Swain can't really do much. I mean, do you see that? This is rank 4. That's not even rank 1 when it's a 9 second cooldown. So what are they doing? They're pushing the cooldown from 9 to 3 to 7 to 3. That's a good change. Even at rank 4, that still pushes it from 4.5 to 4. That makes it a lot better. That makes it feel a lot better, okay? The mana cost, instead of... You can see here I've just used it a few times, and... yeah, I don't have any mana items or anything like that, but sure, I mean... Should you really be running out of mana this quickly? No. So the mana cost on it, in addition to the cooldown, the mana cost is going from 65 to 85 to 45 to 65. It's a 20 reduction. However, the damage itself is going up by 5. So it poke, if you just hit one beam, it's going up by 5. Pretty insignificant. The damage per additional bolt, instead of being a % modifier, is now a flat additional damage per bolt. This means that the maximum damage for hitting all 5 bolts, hitting someone deadass in melee, is going down from 96% AP to 80% AP. I don't fundamentally disagree with this, I guess. The base damage is going up by a little bit on the max, but the AP ratio is going down. Here's my opinion. I think the flat 40% AP should probably go to like 45, maybe even 50. I don't know. This champion, particularly because they're removing the 0.3 AP from his pull, this is a champion who didn't really scale with AP that well anyway. I mean, if you look at his ratios, it's 70%, it's 50% on his E if you hit both of them, and his ult is kind of decent, but it's only 14% each second. I mean, there's not a lot of AP ratios on this champion, and his Q being this giant chunk of 96% ability power, that was where the majority of his scaling was. So removing his passive pulling people scaling and removing scaling from his Q, he doesn't have any other scaling. I mean, I'm gonna put this in the most blunt way possible. His entire kit now will practically be outdamaged by Akali hitting 1 E. And I'm not talking about his ultimate, but I'm saying he could hit a QWE, and Akali just doing E into E passive hit will outdamage that. And I'm not even joking. That will actually be what happens. Seems a bit excessive. I think potentially Ride could maybe add some AP ratios to his E then, maybe his W goes up a little bit. I mean, it's kind of hard to hit. Maybe instead of 0.7, make that a 0.8. So maybe this goes to 0.6, this goes to 0.8. Maybe add the 0.2 AP you're missing from his Q. Maybe, but then the thing is, like, he's still missing from his passive. He's still got 30% on his passive. So they're removing a lot of AP ratio from a champion who didn't really scale that well with AP anyway. Now, I'm not a Swain main, but I have played Swain, and it did really feel that he didn't scale the greatest. Yeah, adding the additional rank on his passive is good. He gets more healing. That's great. Maybe they're trying to push Swain in a more of like a... I don't know. So his W mana cost similarly is going down 10 to 30 mana. Right now it goes 70 to 110. It's going 60 to 80. If I'm playing Swain mid and I've got 2 points in my W and it's 80 mana, it'll be down to where is it? It'll be down to 65. So if I have someone struggling, if there's a top laner fight going on and I'm like boom and I miss it or something, I'm not fucked over by it, right? If I try to use it on a bot lane fight, like, it allows Swain mid to use his W to assist fights more often, and that's why I also think they should maybe increase the AP ratio a little bit, potentially. Maybe 0.75, maybe 0.8. I think it should be a little bit more impactful. I mean, maybe it'd be too frustrating. I don't know. Maybe Swain, who sits mid lane, just chain pushing mid with Q, who then goes, bot's fighting, and he uses a W over bot. I don't know. Maybe that would be really annoying. In addition to that, I guess you can ping it. I guess you can ping his. It's a display enemies in range of his W. I guess. I don't know. It's so long range. Is that really even a big deal? I don't know. I don't know. His never move can now be reactivated to pull all champions rooted. Just to be clear, that means if an enemy is in Fog of War, you can still reactivate it. It used to be that you had to actually be able to see them to do it. And if you hit multiple enemies, you can pull multiple enemies. Now, I think that might mean that you can get multiple health soul fragments by rooting multiple enemies. I'm not 100% positive on that one, to be honest. Additionally, during your ultimate, the cooldown is reduced by 20%. That's not... I mean, it's only a 10-second cooldown, right? So 20% goes down to 8. I guess. I'm not... Okay, whatever. Now, this is the bigger part here. His ultimate, he's going from 120 seconds cooldown to 80 to 60. That's a significant reduction to his ultimate cooldown, obviously. The drain damage per second is also going down. Now, this is something I've been trying to talk about. He's losing a lot of AP ratio here. Sorry, literally couldn't resist last hitting that. It just muscle memory. Yeah, so he literally... There's more AP ratio going down from 0.14 to 0.10 per second. The drain heal per second is going... Oh, but there are 3 numbers here. Okay, drain heal per second, 20, 30, 40, 6% AP to 20, 40, 60, 16% AP to 15, 40, 65. I have no idea what that means, but it seems like they're buffing the healing, potentially buffing the AP ratio on the healing, I guess. I'm not... Someone's gonna have to explain that one to me. I'm not sure why there's 3 numbers going on here. Likely due to the passive change from 5 to 12. His ultimate no longer grants him 125 to 275 health. That's probably to make Swain less squishy when he's not in his ultimate. And it's also to try to make it so that he scales better by not getting the flat amount on his ultimate. He can now get more on his passive, which I don't know. It's not a bad change. It's not an amazing change. Now here's the big thing. So let me go to my ultimate here. You see how you ult and then you have the well, I mean you build up your demon flare, right? But you also to activate demon flare, you need to end your ultimate. You see that? So you activate demon flare, it ends your ultimate. That's not great. It's not, whatever. So they're changing it to, he now gets 50 demon power when he activates his ultimate. His demonic ascension lasts as long as Swain has demon power, which drains a rate of 10 per second. While draining an enemy champion, Swain gains 20 demon power per second. That means Swain's ultimate can now go infinite. You can now go intimate. Everybody got that? So, yeah, that's kind of a big deal. He can get up to, I'm assuming, 100 demon power, and because he loses 10 per second but gains 20 per second in range of an enemy, if you kite out Swain, his ultimate's gonna end pretty quickly. If you don't kite him out, it goes infinite. Infinitely sitting in his ultimate. That's what a lot of Swain players have wanted, actually. I'm assuming that's why a lot of these nerfs are happening, is that he can go infinite ult. That's a big deal. Swain will be a lot more about draining, and he's gonna be a lot more about staying in range. Now, what about Demon Flare? You're saying Hashinshin, but if he activates Demon Flare, then it ends. Well, actually, it doesn't. So, let me read this right here. I need to move my camera up, I guess, a little bit. On casting Demonic Ascension, Swain can cast Demon Flare 1 time. This does not end Demonic Ascension. Now, Demon Flare damage is going up from 100 to 200 plus 50% AP to 150 to 300 plus 60% AP. Additionally, it now slows enemies by 60%, decaying over 1.5 seconds. So he's got a 1-use Demon Flare per ultimate that he can use to slow enemies, kind of maybe peel them off him or slow them into range. He can only cast it 1 time, and he can only cast it after 3 seconds. He can't ult and immediately Demon Flare to slow you down. He takes a little bit... It sort of pushes him into more of like a Juggernaut mage type of role, which I like that. That's cool. So, Demon Flare no longer charges up based on health drained up to double damage. So, the damage, obviously, he can't get a Mega Ultra Super Demon Flare at 100% AP, 400 damage, but he can use it to slow enemies. And again, this is more AP ratio being removed. I'm just saying, more AP ratio being removed. But, yeah, so there you go. That's his big ult change. And these are some big changes. So, he can, activate this ultimate, and he can, so long, if he's in a team fight, he can permanently sit in this ultimate. He can Zanya's next to people. It heals for more, I think. He can activate Demon Flare, which he can't hear, but I mean, you can activate Demon Flare, slow people off you. Maybe like a Jax or something is on you, you can slow them off you. You can keep spamming that that Q. You can keep rooting. I mean, each time you hit a W or each time you hit an E, you get more HP. I mean, that's pretty, I mean, those are all good, right? So, yeah, I mean, as a whole, I like this. My big issue is that I don't like the health per soul fragment being so big early game, which will allow him to stack up a lot of HP early game. I'm not big on that. I think it should be lower early game with a comeback mechanic into the late game, so that if his early game gets screwed, if he gets ganked too much, if he has an unfavorable matchup, he doesn't just feel like there's nothing I can do to get back into this game, right? He should feel like there's something he can do to get back in the game. That's why I suggest change it to 5 to 15, so that later in the game, he can start stacking up more HP, but early in the game, he can't. Additionally, I think they should add a little bit of AP ratio throughout his kit. I'm not, maybe do like a Vladimir thing, maybe, where, like, I don't know, maybe he gets health based on his AP ratio. Like, if you don't want to make him a higher damage champion, maybe do it so he gets some conversion from AP ratio into health. That would also help his itemization a little bit. I'm just spitballing. That would be a spitball idea to help give him more AP ratio without actually giving him more damage. But I do think that this kit will be definitely lacking a lot of damage right now. The AP ratio nerf on his ult, and the AP ratio nerf on his passive, the AP ratio nerf on his Q. This champion was not known for one-shotting people, and he's now losing a lot of AP ratio. That's going to be really noticeable, okay? His E potentially can root everyone. It can also be reactivated to pull people when you don't see them, so in a brush or something, that's a big deal. That's good. The mana reduction on his W, that's good. Maybe support Swain maxing W can now support more. Maybe he can assist with more ganks and stuff like that. I don't know. The Q mana cost, the Q cooldown, these are good. So he's definitely stronger in the early game. He's not just sort of a sitting duck in the early game who, well, let's be honest, he kind of needed to go into the support role, because if he ever went into the solo lane, he got obliterated. Yeah. I'm going to pull up Swain's stats here as a quick second. Now, Swain got dicked over by Riot because they were really afraid of Swain going into the solo lanes, because obviously pre-rework, he just destroyed everyone in the solo lane. Here's an actual suggestion for Riot. Maybe buff his base armor by like 3. Maybe make it 26 to 94. That's just a blunt suggestion, because Swain's armor is really low. His base health is really low. There are some champions. Now you can say, oh, but when he levels up, he gets lots of armor. He eventually ends at 91. That's high for a mage. Oh, his health, he stacks off his path. Okay, here's the problem. Swain often has issues where he cannot ever stack anything, ever. If he fights an Aurelia, or if he fights a Riven, or if he fights a Zed, they will literally just jump on top of him and murder him, and he can't do anything to prevent it. It's not fun, okay? So, personal suggestion, buff that base armor by like 3. 26 would still be really low, just to be clear. That would still be a really low amount of base armor. It would just make him not instantly explode into 10 billion pieces. I don't think that would make him overpowered in support. I don't think that would make him overpowered in mid. With how many nerfs he's done, I think there's a little bit of leeway there to try to assist that, okay? Alternatively, honestly, yeah, I mean, I think his armor was just made really low because people were afraid of pre-rework Swain, and then for a little bit after the rework, he was really overpowered in the melee. That's been toned down a lot. The last suggestion I'll make, in order to help into those matchups, like Aurelia, like Zed, like Riven, I think the first half of his E should slow by 20, maybe 25% into people that are walking towards him. Not walking away, but walking towards him. That way, if he's in a position where there's just no way he can land that E, right? He's been trapped in a minion wave, or if there's enemy champions behind him, or anything like that, if Swain just needs to desperation shoot his E out, he can slow people by like 20 to 25%, like an Aatrox W would slow people, just a little bit to try to get like a desperation, like, oh man, don't kill me. I think that would also maybe not be the worst thing. I think Swain is particularly really bad because in the melee matchups, because damage has gone up so high lately that he just doesn't really get time to scale and actually exist. He just doesn't get that time. It's really hard to hit his W. He barely ever gets that slow. I mean, everyone will stack tenacity into him. Everyone will, and it's hard for him. It's just really, really hard for Swain to hit his abilities properly, okay? So I think a little bit of a gimme. So a lot of champions have gimmies. Those are just when you give a champion something that they don't really have to work for, just because it helps them out a lot to be more balanced. That not every champion needs to hit every skill shot. Do you understand that? Sometimes you can just have gimmies. Like Renekton has a point and click stun. Riven has a point and click stun. Aatrox, his W is so fast in melee and it'll always slow by 25%, so it helps people get away from you. Darius has E into Q. Sometimes it's fine to have a gimme, okay? And that would be my suggestions on this champion. Overall, I think that, let me pull these up here. Where are you? I think that these changes are good. I'm just worried about the low AP ratio. I'm worried that people are going to play bad into him, and particularly at the lower ranks, that he's just going to hit his EW like 4 times on someone who's bad, and then he's just going to be so tanky by having like 100 extra HP that people are going to whine about that. I don't know. Maybe it being stronger early game is good for the high ranks, but I don't suspect people at the high ranks are going to get hit by that root into W so often. I don't know. Maybe I'm totally off base here. Maybe this is actually a really good change. I don't know. But that's my opinion, and that's this rework. So overall, yeah, honestly, I would say I like it. Swain will, if this is too weak, they'll probably buff it. But overall, I think this will probably bring Swain back into the solo lane for sure, probably. It looks like it'd still probably be viable support. I mean, probably. I don't know. But yeah, there you go. That's just rework. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope you guys understand everything. I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Special shout out to my Patreon supporters. Make sure to subscribe to my Patreon. It helps me out a lot for as little as $3 a month. The link in the description. You can join my Patreon and support these videos. Thank you to my YouTube members. And thank you to everybody who likes this video. Thank you, everybody, and have a great rest of your day.